Hello, hello. Welcome to Startup with Ferris live stream. Thank you for tuning in. So, what's new in the world of entrepreneurship? Signing that contract is exciting, but the real work begins after you have a client who agreed to work with you. Clients will need to understand your working style, your communication frequency, and how to reach out when they need support. In some of the research we've done, and we'll have those links actually in an article on the website, 63% of customers consider the onboarding experience when deciding to stick with a company or not for the long term. Also, businesses with a solid onboarding process keep 16% more of their new customers. So, and as someone who has built, scaled, and sold several consulting and service companies, I've seen these numbers come to life. The way we welcome new clients can make or break our business. Think of it this way: client onboarding is the first chapter of a book. If the opening pages are confusing or unengaging, the reader is not going to stick around. They might put the book down before getting to the good parts. Now, on the other hand, a well planned client onboarding process will set you apart and will set the stage for a happy and successful relationship, because it shows customers that you care. It helps projects run smoothly, and then improves the project success rates, and eventually brings on more referrals, because clients will talk to others and say, hey, this new vendor that we've just signed up with, they're amazing. They made us feel welcome. They understood our needs. They immediately responded to us. They scheduled their kickoff and all the great things that a solid onboarding process entails, which is what we will be discussing for the next 30 minutes or so. But first, let's go over a few housekeeping items. Folks, if you're watching or listening live or tuning in later, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a comment on whichever platform you're on social media, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or you can go to startupwithferris.com and submit a question there. But I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know more about the challenges that you're going through, the wins you're having, smalls or big, and any, if you have any questions. We produce a lot of content at Startup with Ferris, either on the website startupwithferris.com or on the channel, on the YouTube channel at Startup with Ferris. So let me know. Love to hear from you, and then we can provide educational content to help you start and build and grow your business to 7 and 8 figures. Also, remember that we have these live streams every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We cover a business topic, and then we answer questions that we get from the community. And last but not least, at the very end of this call, this session, we have actually I want to share with you more information about our Black Belt Startup coaching and training program. So stick around and let us know again what questions you have, and hopefully you have some clients and you are ready to improve the way you onboard them into your business. Or if you're just starting a business, I want you to set up these processes now so that when you go out and sell and get clients, you take care of them, they stick with you, you make money, you add value, you help them out, and they come to you for more business and refer other people to you. All right. So what is client onboarding? What exactly is client onboarding? A client onboarding is a relatively short journey that starts the minute your new clients sign a contract. See, before that, their leads, their prospects, you're out there networking, marketing, meeting people, emailing, cold calling, whatever you're doing to attract people to your business. That's all pre-onboarding. This is before they sign that contract. But once they sign a contract, then they're your clients. And now onboarding is basically guiding them through these initial steps of working with you. You're establishing a relationship. You are setting expectations. You are sharing and gathering a lot of information. And then you're ensuring they understand exactly what the service is that they're getting from you and the workflows within your business. And all of that will create a smooth and a successful partnership from the start. Now, why does it matter? Why is this onboarding process important? In my experience, the more, and personally, when I buy things, the more thoughtful and the more personalized the onboarding is, the more valued I feel as a customer. And think about it, for your own business, when you have new clients, you want them to feel more confident and comfortable working with you. So you want to make sure you take the time to address their initial questions, their concerns about, like how this is gonna, how is it that they're gonna work with you? When are you going to deliver the service? Who is it that they'll be working with? All of that, because they just signed a contract. Potentially, they just paid you maybe 50%, that down payment, and they have maybe some concerns, um, some questions, and this is the time to make sure that you address it right away, proactively, so they feel comfortable and confident. Two, if you address these common questions and common concerns early on proactively, you'll get fewer support requests, fewer calls, fewer emails, and the whole operation will be smoother. So that's something to keep in mind. And third is, again, that experience. You as a service provider, you as a consultant, when you have this positive experience with the leads, with the clients now, it is about your reputation. It's in the services business, reputation is everything. So this seamless and very positive onboarding experience will help you stand out from the competition and help build a brand known for its exceptional client care. All right. So that's a bit about what onboarding is, if you're new to delivering a project or a service, and why it matters. I want to cover next the different approaches to onboarding, and then give you specific steps into 3 phases that I've used in different companies that we've started and built and have grown. So before we go to the methodology, I see we have this on the screen. Let's see if we have a question before we go into the approaches. Does every business in general need onboarding? Short answer is yes. The scope of onboarding is going to be completely different. If your service is, you can get everything done in a couple of days. I mean, you don't need a week of onboarding to get everything done in a day. So it's going to depend on the scale and the scope of the service that you offer. It's going to depend on the time it takes to deliver the service. It's going to depend on the number of stakeholders involved. So let's just go through some examples. If you provide, let's say you are an IT consultant, an IT cybersecurity consultant, okay? So, and you do an audit of systems. You go to businesses, mid-sized businesses, or the enterprise, and you do an audit of their security. Are they protected? Do they have they have antivirus software? Do they have anti-hacking software? Whatever is involved in that business. So where do you start? When do you start? What access to systems that you have that you need to have to do your work? Like what permissions you need? So you probably, as a IT consultant, you have a lot of things that you need from the client. So when you have a new client, part of the onboarding will be to send them maybe an email thanking them for being a client, and then say, here's what to expect next. I will need, for example, I'll have a kickoff meeting, and then I will need these 10 things from you. And this might take, I don't know, it might take a week for the client to gather that information before you can have the project kickoff time. But the onboarding in this case, it might be a little bit longer, especially if it's a larger business that you deal with, and maybe there's like 5 stakeholders that you have to work with. So you have to meet maybe with each one of them individually, or you might have to set up a meeting with them. So again, the scope of the onboarding process we're talking about will vary depending on, again, the service that you offer, the complexity of the service, the scope of the service, of course, and then the number of stakeholders. So, and then the more complex, the larger the project, I think the more preparation that you need to have. But even if it's something that then can be done, let's say you need to hire someone who can come to your house and take care of something around the house. Maybe, I don't know, you need um, plumbing services, right? There's still, even in something that someone to come and fix a leaking faucet, right? You sign up with them, maybe you call them, you agreed on the price. They have to schedule time. They have to tell you when to expect the person. Maybe they'll give you a window. They have to tell you, even if it's something that's going to require 1 hour of work. As a service provider, you need to let the clients know of what to expect, and when the service will be delivered. um, who is it going to be delivering the service? When is it that they'll be getting the invoice? All of that needs to be communicated, and the more you have this streamlined, and the more you have it where every time you get a new client, this is almost all automated, the better that experience is with the customer. So again, yes, I would say general answer: every business should have some onboarding process, but the process will depend based on those variables that we discussed. And I think it'll become clearer once we go through these next few items. So in terms of approaches to onboarding, early on, if you're listening and you're just starting a business, everything is going to be manual. And I want you to do things manually initially, and see what you can streamline and optimize and automate with software. But there's no one size fits all in terms of onboarding approaches. Uh, but I'll give you three examples, and we have a table here to make it easy. I'll show you the approach, and then what it is, and then the pros and cons. So for those of you who are watching, you can see it on the screen. For those of you who are listening, I'll go over it. So basically, think of it self-service onboarding. So if you sell things online, let's say you provide copywriting services, okay, or maybe like communications. You're a communication coach, right? So you can potentially have things where the clients will learn how they work with you online, and you can provide guides, videos, maybe some list of FAQs, some tutorials on your website. So you can, when someone signs up with you, you send them a follow-up email, and you say, please go through these set of videos, or maybe again articles, or maybe you have a small portal, they log in and they have all that information. But basically, you're helping the client, you're providing the client with information where they can onboard themselves and learn about you and your and what to expect through a website or a portal. So excuse me, allergies have been acting up for a few weeks, but I'm managing okay. So that's the self-service onboarding model. Obviously, it'll save you time, and then the client can go and learn on their own pace, their own speed. The cons is, again, this is not as personalized. Some clients want to talk to someone because they just paid you. So I think evaluate if that makes sense for your business model. The second strategy would be hands-on onboarding, where you are personally, or one of your team members, you do this hands-on, you're involved. You email the client, you set up a meeting, you call them, you walk them through everything, your processes, what to expect, when the project kickoff will be, who the team members that they will be working with. All of that, you do that manually, you do that in person, or you do it virtually. And that's, obviously it builds, I think, a stronger relationship, and it makes the client feel that they're valued and they're getting the attention from you, the consultant, the service provider, the business owner. Obviously, it takes a lot of time and might not be scalable as you get more clients. So the process the strategy I think is the hybrid one, the third one, and basically you're combining that personal touch with some sort of processes, some sort of documentation, online guides, some videos, where you initiate, maybe send a personalized email, and then you send a follow-up link or links to things to help the client get onboarded with your business and follow up. So that needs, obviously careful planning, and make sure you're attending to the needs of the client. But the idea here is that find something where it makes sense for your business, and then also it's working well, resonating well with the clients. So initially, if you've been If the clients have been giving you feedback that your onboarding process, or that things are confusing and they have a lot of questions, then we want to revisit how you are taking care of the clients after they sign the contract. And then from that point on, I think, do the hands-on onboarding. This would be my guidance. Do the hands-on onboarding for 5, 6, 7, I don't know, 10 clients. And then from that experience, you can start building out some online resources on your website, or maybe on your portal behind the login, or you can maybe have it even on, like, on a Google Drive. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Initially, just see if you can figure out manually, do a lot of, because you learn a lot from speaking with customers. And I want you to do that, especially if you're new to the business, or you are struggling with the business. I want you to spend more time really focused on understanding, like listening to the needs of the customer, because they don't share all the stuff with you in the sales process, and understanding the pain points, the challenges, all of that. You can just get it. You can see their body language when you meet with them in person, or even on a Zoom call. So my guidance would be, do things hands-on initially. That's taxing on your time, maybe on your team's time, but later look at this whole process after you've done it for maybe 5, 6, 7 times. See what you can automate part of it. So if you find yourself, you're always explaining the same thing all the time, maybe you can then have a video on this to say, okay, here's what it is, and here's a video. Please watch it before the next meeting. Okay, so these are the different approaches. Start in general, start hands-on, and then see what you can automate, see what you can streamline. Let's see if we have other questions. Which approach of the three is best? But again, I think if you, and maybe we can put this slide back on the screen here. I mean, I think if you're just starting, as I said earlier, the hands-on is best. Later, as you grow, as you have served more clients, I think fully onboarding automatically, I think, works at scale. And if your service doesn't need that human touch, but for any type of service where there's that sort of interpersonal communication, there's that relationship that you have to build, that you have to establish, that there's sort of a consulting aspect to it. I think for those, some sort of hands-on onboarding is required. People, they just committed to buying from you. They just signed a contract. They just paid you some money. So having that FaceTime, that face-to-face, or even just virtually, is fine. But they're comfortable that they're working with you. Now, you might have been all over them in the sales process, and it's sort of disappearing or not getting involved, and sending them to some sort of portal, or like a landing or a page on your website. It just, the dynamics there will not work in your favor. So it kind of keep that in. I think that interpersonal, that relationship, you want to strengthen that relationship, that whatever you built in the sales process, in the sales phase, you want that to continue and grow beyond sales. So which approach is best? I think it's going to depend, but some element, I think a hybrid is initially hands-on. I think I'll answer it shortly here, and I'll answer it in a short way and then move on to the next point. But I think the best approach is initially a lot of hands-on. Over time, see how much of this onboarding process, which we'll cover here in the next 10 to 15 minutes, which parts of these elements of onboarding you can automate, you can make accessible without your involvement. I think that will help you a lot in scaling your business. All right, cool. So all right. So the goal here again is to make the clients feel welcome. So how do we take and how do we take them from hello, I love what you offer, I love you, and then I'm now a happy client and I sign up. How do we take them from here to be this amazing referenceable client at the end of once you deliver the service? I think it one thing to keep in mind is that this onboarding concept doesn't start after you close the deal. I've learned through making these mistakes and learning from others that onboarding starts before you actually have the client sign a contract. So you want to look at these initial conversations you had from them, like what information you've gathered about them, about their needs, about their desires, about what's important to them, right? What expectations they have in terms of not just how much they pay you, but also in terms of the time it takes to deliver the service. What level on their part is required, right? So understanding all these details, all of that is you set up the expectations before they sign the contract. So looking at this, what we would call pre-onboarding phase. So all of that is happening in the sales process. See, onboarding the client to your processes, to your workflows, to your systems, that happens after we close the deal. But there are three phases, I think, to put a framework around this. The first phase is pre-onboarding. In the sales process, I want to make sure, and I think we have a slide on this, I want to make sure that you're gathering all that information about the client. You're documenting this. Whether you have a CRM or not, it doesn't matter. Whatever information you learn about the client, document it in your spreadsheet. And we have a DIY CRM, a spreadsheet that you can use probably up till to have like 50, 60, 70 qualified leads and some clients. But I want you to build this muscle of gathering information from the client. So that's all on, if the client says, I want to get the service delivered in a week, that's what you learned in the sales process. And then when it comes to onboarding, you hand it off the contract to your project manager to deliver, and the project manager gets on a call with a customer and says, yeah, we'll deliver this in 3 weeks. You're going to have a horrible experience, or the client will have a horrible experience with this onboarding, because they were expecting a week and now you're saying 3 weeks, right? So gathering that information, if the client says it's important for me to do X, Y, and Z, then you got to do it in that order. That's what's important to them. So you have to capture that information, store it in your spreadsheet or in your CRM, and then include it part of the delivery. Also, all the details about the service that you're offering, all of that should be well laid out, well detailed out in your proposal, in your contract. I've seen it so many times. 20 years ago when I started my first business, I made those mistakes. And even now when I work with founders, the proposals are very high level. They involve things about pricing, but when the payment terms are not clear, do you invoice 50% upfront, 25% midway, 25% at the end? Do you expect everything to be done to get paid at the beginning or at the end? So expectations on pricing, on the milestones, on the deliverables, all of that need to be very, very well detailed in the proposal, in the contract. And that is passed on to your team member who will be doing the onboarding and the implementation. And that's that internal preparation is required, so that that when you meet with the client after you close the deal, you will be delivering on what you promised them in the sales process. So I think this pre-onboarding phase, it happens before they are a client. You're setting expectations, you're listening, you're gathering information, and then internally you're preparing, whether it's yourself, if you're a solo business owner still, or you have other team members who will help you implement what you've sold. All that need to happen so that you can have a very positive experience with the client when you're onboarding them, to your systems. So that's important. And these might not take a whole lot of time. These little extra things, but as Jimmy Johnson said, the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is that little extra attention, that little extra maybe personalization, maybe the thank you email, that genuine, sincere email thanking the client that they sign up with you and tell them exactly what to expect. That extra 5 minutes you took to send that email, maybe a gift card, whatever like a thank you card, whatever the case might be, that is really important. And the few minutes you sit down, the 20 minutes you sit down with your project manager to go over everything you've learned during the sales process, and make sure your project manager is equipped with this information so he or she can deliver. That's really important. I've seen it where the business owner is out there selling and connecting, and they're great with people, and they have an amazing memory where they capture all that information, and they know each lead and what the lead wants and cares for, and what the concerns are for these leads. But all of that information is here in your mind, and you're not sending this over, you're not sharing this over with your team will have a hard time delivering on what you sold. So all this pre-boarding information is important to help you deliver to the level of expectation that the client has, which again, you set those expectations in the sales process. So that's phase one. Then we have two more phases here before we wrap up. Phase two is getting started. So now that, okay, we roll out the red carpet and make the client feel like they have made the best decision by choosing you as a service provider. So if you're looking for a checklist on what to do, this is the one. A personalized welcome. Again, thank you email, a thank you card, whatever you think is appropriate, and then summarize what you've heard from them, and summarize how you will address these concerns, these fears, these desires that they shared with you. So just make sure that just they feel very welcome, and that you understand what they're looking for, and that you're there for them. And then if you have a team, people who will be actually introducing, you'll be introducing to the client, this is a good opportunity to say, hey, I have the best project manager. I have my team who know this stuff cold. I've trained them, I've hired them and took care of them, and they will take care of you. So introduce your team, and again, position your team obviously in a good light, and position them as the experts who will deliver this. Because a lot of times when we are the consultants, the business owners, people are impressed by us, by our knowledge, maybe by our certifications, by just our passion for helping others. And you want to make sure that your team continues that sort of those feelings, those your team is as impressive as you are in terms of the knowledge, in terms of they're probably better than you in maybe they're maybe more detail oriented. They can take care of the clients in a better way than you are. If you're just the sort of the one out there just marketing, getting leads, your team is probably going to be very, very detail oriented. They're going to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. So introduce your team, position your team as specialists who will take care of the client. And then I think go over the company culture. This is not, okay, here's our mission and here's our vision statements. No, like give your client a glimpse into your company's values, mission, just the way you work with customers. Like, hey, we are very responsive. Within 2 hours, you'll hear from us. We love to meet in person. We love, we schedule 2 calls a week. Whatever the case, whatever you've built as a business owner and that you're proud of, and your work style, share that with a client. And again, some clients might say, you know what, this doesn't work for me. Like, I can't meet twice a week. I'll meet only once a week, but I can meet longer. So you have to adjust the way you do work, at times, but share that with the customer, as well. So that's phase 2. That's the phase on getting started. The third phase is on kicking off the project. So now we get down to business, right? Roll up our sleeves and get stuff done. So this is where I want you to schedule a kickoff meeting in this onboarding process. When you send them that email, the first or maybe second email, say, here's where the kickoff meeting will take place. We need to set up a time, quality time, to gather a whole lot of information, because in the sales process, we don't have all the details in general. The clients don't have all the details, but we have a general understanding of what's going on in general. So this is the chance to get all the information that you need. This is your chance to meet the stakeholders, because you might have sold to the a CEO of a company, or you might have sold to the HR manager, or maybe to the IT manager, but now there are other stakeholders. So the kickoff meeting is a good time to meet with everyone who's involved, and ensuring everyone is on the same page as it relates to what you're delivering. Because again, you have, in most cases, you've sold to one person, maybe a couple of people, they evaluated, your service and your contract, but typically there are more people involved in receiving your service. So you want to summarize what's involved. You want to highlight the milestones, and we do have articles on kickoffs, on setting expectations. So check out the website for that. But I want part of the onboarding. If you're looking for a checklist for onboarding, so we talked about getting started, and then in terms of the kickoff, have a kickoff meeting, and then setting all the expectations. Who's the main point of contact? Make sure you understand who are the key decision makers on the clients, and who's going to approve this, who's going to approve that, and then also remind them of the turnaround time for the milestones and for the service, because they might have forgotten. Some of us have this short-term memory loss. Because this process, you said, I will deliver the service in 4 weeks. In their mind, they've heard 2 weeks. I don't know. So remind people of summarize this contract and the main milestones and the payment terms and what you expect of the clients to do for you. Summarize all of that in this kickoff meeting. So yeah, and the last thing is here in terms of kicking off the project is on the communication cadence. It's also important. This is onboarding phases. Excuse me. Is to set up the communication cadence. So let the clients know that we will meet, let's say, once a week, virtually or in person, especially if your service spans, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Sorry about that. And then also what you have, like check-ins, you have maybe like you send an email with the project, a project update, like every Friday before, like by Friday morning, you'll get a weekly update on what we've done, what we expect, what's next week, what issues we ran into. And then if you have a lot of stakeholders, you want to send everyone who's involved and is impacted by what you're doing. You want to make sure everyone is on the same page. So this communication cadence is really important, because you might get really busy. You have the kickoff meeting, you gather all the information you need, and then you're busy implementing. But if the client is not aware of your progress, and if the client is not aware of maybe some constraints you have because you rely on them to give you more information, and then they, one of their team members who is going to provide the information is out on vacation for 2 weeks, so you're held back, right? So setting this communication cadence is really important. So that's basically it. So we talked about three phases here to summarize. One is the pre-onboarding, like what you do and the expectations you set during the sales process. And then once you have clients, kind of getting started and sending that personalized message and introducing your team. And then third is you kick off the project, and again, you reiterate and you communicate to all the stakeholders what to expect in terms of deliverables, timeline, and what you expect the client to also support you in during this process. Good stuff. So now the last part here is on software and systems you can use to help you in these phases. So there's so many pieces of software. There's so many things that you can use. I'm not suggesting you use all the systems I'm going to mention right now, but think of it as, again, more of a checklist for you. I want you to do it gradually and do things manually initially, and then gradually adopt and streamline. So in the pre-onboarding phase, think of like the proposals you send. Initially, Google Docs, Word docs are fine, PDF, these things before you send them out to customers. Potentially, you can look into tools like Proposify or PandaDoc. Again, I don't have any affiliation with any of these systems, but those systems allow you to create and send proposals fairly efficiently. And then you can even have the client sign electronically, and you can see actually who maybe opened the proposal. So initially, you can do everything in a Google Doc. That's totally fine. And there's a new feature in Google Doc now where you can have clients actually sign electronically. Pretty cool, free, part of the Google Workspace suite. So that's one thing. Also, if you haven't adopted a CRM, a customer relationship management system yet, you can use our DIY CRM. I want you to build this muscle, you and your team. Every interaction with the client, every piece of information you learn, I want that captured in a CRM or in your spreadsheet. Again, CRMs, Salesforce for small business, HubSpot, Pipedrive. It doesn't matter. All of these, we have a whole series on CRMs. Check out our live streams on CRMs if you're not sure which one to choose, how to implement the best practices. But I want you to capture that information in the sales process before you sign the contract, because that will ensure that you have a positive experience when you are onboarding clients. Now, they've signed the contracts, they're with you. What do? Getting started. That's the second phase. So use email tools. Whatever email system you're using is fine. If you're doing things manually, you can also upgrade and start using things like MailChimp or ConvertKit, depending on your business model, and maybe have a sequence of emails. So there's a welcome email, like the minute a contract is signed, you send a follow-up email. Then maybe the next day you send more information about the business, and maybe the third day you have like, here's some additional information. You can do all this stuff manually. Make sure it's on your task list, on your to-do list, or over time you can use one of those email tool systems or email tools, to automate some of these processes. But the idea is, when clients signed with you, communicate with them like right away. That's really important. And of course, I don't think I have to say this, but video conferencing, Zoom, Google Doc, Google Meet, whatever you use is fine. Make sure you turn the camera on and be presentable, especially when you're doing this kickoff meeting. You have people that you haven't met yet from the client side. So this is your opportunity to impress them, because again, maybe the CEO or maybe a manager has hired you, but you haven't met the rest of the team. So you want to make sure you're very presentable, have some good lighting. You don't have to have anything fancy. Just make sure you're presentable. If you're doing this over a Zoom or a video, Google Meet call. But the idea is, make sure that you have a system and a process, and there are no technology issues like in presenting, screen sharing. Just get really comfortable doing all of this virtually, if you're doing these things virtually, so that it's all part of that initial experience that the client is having with you. And then in the project kickoff, I recommend you use a system from early on. I mean, you can use a Google Sheet for initial system. You can use a piece of paper to write your notes, but over time, you want to have a system for tracking tasks, priorities, deadlines. So whether it's Asana or Basecamp or Trello or Notion, there's so many systems out there. Again, we have some content on this on our website. But the idea is, use a system to track everything that's going on with the customer, the task, the priority, the person in charge of delivering, and also the delivery date. And then for communication with the customer, obviously email. Almost everyone is using email these days. If you're using Slack and you want your clients to be part of that Slack channel that you create for the project, especially if they use Slack, that's another option. Again, pros and cons of a lot of these things, but make sure that if you have a system that works well for you, and maybe it could be a Google Drive where you share, large files. It could be, again, you have a portal on your website, depending on your business. A lot of the financial advisors have access to systems and portals where you have your own information, and then the financial reports they have for you. So many systems are out there. Again, I'm not recommending use all of them at the same time, but do things manually initially, and then graduate out of this manual process and use these technologies to help you be more streamlined and to really scale. Other tools, we talked about a client portal, but maybe like a knowledge base or like an FAQs. If you always get asked the same questions on every project, every time you onboard a client, you get asked the same 5 questions or a variation of them. So provide a list of FAQs and search these, share these FAQs with the clients, so that it saves you time. And then in terms of surveys, whether it's to that initial intake or initial onboarding, important, or if you want to get feedback from customers throughout the process or throughout the project, or maybe at the end of the project, use Google Forms are fine, SurveyMonkey, and so many other systems. So these are the tools. Again, I'm not recommending that you use all of them at the same time, but start manual and then gradually adopt and then streamline. Let's see, before we wrap it up here, let's see if we have any questions. And we have a comment. We have a comment here from Bilal. Thank you, Bilal, for joining. In some cases, when starting a business, we don't have a team in place. How would you introduce the business in such situations? It's a very good question, Bilal. So, yeah, I remember when we started our very first business, I had a business partner. He was a silent business partner, and yeah, I was a salesperson and I was a project manager. So I made sure I set up those expectations as such. So I wouldn't say like, hey, my team would deliver. I say I was the consultant, I was the subject matter expert. I was selling. I said, yeah, once we close the deal, I will set up a kickoff call. So I'm positioning myself as the business owner, as the consultant, and I'm also the one delivering the service. Actually, there's a lot of value in this because a lot of people are impressed by your technical knowledge and what you have to offer and your certifications and your industry experience. And they will get to work with you, the expert, the specialist. So there's actually, you can position it that way. And later, uh, when you have team members, again, when you're starting your business to scale, in most cases, you will need people. So you will hire people who are also as good as you are. And maybe they're subject matter experts in a different area. Maybe they're just great project managers. But later, you can then position my team will, I'm still involved. I'll oversee the project. I'll provide the strategy, and then my team will implement. So initially, I think you can turn what I think in a lot of our minds initially, like this is a disadvantage. I don't have a team, but I think I would position it that, hey, I am the subject matter expert. I'm the one who will not only sell you this, but also will deliver. And I'm bringing all my experience, to help you. So I think this is a positive. Again, some customers will not buy from you because you're a maybe just a one person company. It'll happen. But a lot of people, in my experience, will be impressed by you, and then they want to work with you. I think also you can mention that I have a network of contractors. I have subject matter experts. I have partners in the industry. I pull in when needed. So there's always depending on the scope of the project. So yeah, I think that's a very good question. And awesome, hey, thank you again for joining. I appreciate you being on this live stream. You have a question here. Let's see. You spoke about giving gift cards or as a thank you. Is that something that is okay to do? So I think I shouldn't have said gift cards. I would say some folks like to do. One of the sales coaches I learned from many years ago, they would actually send actual just a thank you card. You buy from Safeway. I think in terms of sending gifts, you have, depending on the client you're working with, if you are working with larger businesses, they have some gifting policies, so make sure you understand that. Typically it's on their website for vendors, like it can be more than $25 or something. So I mean, if you're working with a small business owner and it's a small business, I think you have more leeway. But I don't think you have to be extravagant. You don't have to spend a lot of money on this, but it's more of, let's say in your sales process you learn that the client likes something specific. Maybe you can send them a card with that picture on it, or maybe you can send them if they like a certain, I don't know, they love cheese or whatever the case might be. I mean, something. It's the thought and the follow up is more important than the value, because if you start spending a lot of money on gifts, again, there some companies have some certain certain guidelines. I think I'm trying to remember early on, we used to send like a box of chocolate. I love sweets, so we'd always send something like something, again, like not expensive, but something that more thoughtful than is the thought behind it. That thing that's more important than the actual gift. So, but some folks like to do this manual thank you note. I was just got introduced to a CPA, to a bookkeeper, to an accountant, all Asia, amazing lady, and someone introduced us through a networking event, which you got to be out there if you're starting a business doing networking events. And I it's just so happened that I spoke with the person right after I spoke with her who was looking for a bookkeeper. So I made an introduction like the same day. So she sent me a very, very nice card, just handwritten, how appreciative she was that I send her a lead like the same day. So that was very thoughtful of her, right? I mean, I think a nice email would have done it too. But people going out of their way to do like a nice, just thank you card. I think it leaves a positive impression. So, but yeah, the idea is to make the customer feel confident, comfortable that you're there for them, and I think that and the timing is also important. Good questions. Thank you. Good comment. Thank you. So let's see. Question. I think we have one more question before we wrap up here. Do I need all this tech and software? Before the comments, again, thank you, Bilal and Austin, for your comments and questions. We mentioned a whole lot of tools, right? Email tools, CRMs, proposal tools. Do I need all of it? No, you do not need. I definitely don't recommend that you spend a lot of money on a lot of tools initially. I think start small. Don't feel like you need all the tools out there. Just initially capture the information in a spreadsheet. Later, when you have 50 qualified leads, then it's time to look for a CRM. Proposal, use Google Docs. And again, there's a feature now that people can sign this online. Later, you might want to use one of those online, more enhanced, more feature-rich proposal doc systems. And the same thing with, I mean, for video, you can use Zoom, Google Meet, whatever. That's all easy and accessible. And I think we're all used to it these days. Survey tools, again, Google Forms are fine. But initially, the idea is do things manually, figure out after maybe 2, 3, 4 clients, figure out what works well, tweak it, and then automate. Okay. And make sure it's user friendly. And again, as a new business owner, even as an established business owner, always mind your budget. So a lot of these tools that offer free plans, free trials, excuse me, take advantage of that. And then once, like Calendly, to schedule meetings with customers. I didn't put that in the list of tools, but Calendly, there's a free version that's pretty capable. Instead of asking the clients, and what time is it good for you? What time is it good? What date? Save like 30 minutes of back and forth, send a link to Calendly, and then clients can find times on your calendar that works for them. And that's great, right? So mind your budget, start with free stuff, and then you can go to paid subscription. And the last thing I want to say is just a couple of tips on common mistakes to avoid. So in this onboarding process, in our passion and we want to share a lot of information. Sometimes we overwhelm clients with information. So there's a balance. And I think you learn this by by doing this. Like you're going to learn how much enough information and how much is overwhelming the client. You just have to practice. And you do it a few times, because if you don't share a lot of information, they have a lot of questions. If you share a lot of information, they'll be overwhelmed. So I would say you don't have to send them a 10-page document about your processes. Start small, share some information, and then over time, I think you'll find the right balance. And always, especially initially, I think try to you want to personalize the outreach, and then don't ignore feedback. After every phase of every project, ask the client, like, how is the experience with us? How is the sales experience? How is the onboarding experience? And whatever input they give you, right or wrong, take it with a smile, and then go back internally yourself with your team and see what you can improve to make sure your process is better. And the one last thing I would say is make sure go on radio silent. This is, the clients were very excited. They signed the deal. They're ready to get the service. Make sure you communicate. Do not disappear after the project kickoff. Over communicate. Stay in touch. Let them know that you're there. You might need a week to prepare to present, maybe in the kickoff meeting, but just make sure you communicate with them. So that's it on client onboarding. Again, if you're just starting, the challenge is going to be in selling. But as soon as you sell, you want to have an amazing, positive experience with your clients, because you want to take care of them. That's your contractual commitment, but also they'll be your advocates. They will refer you to others. that is it for today. I want to do, just for those of us who are new maybe to joining this live stream, we do have again our YouTube channel, Startup with Ferris. We produce daily shorts and weekly videos and these live streams on all things related to entrepreneurship. And we also have our Black Belt Startup program. It's an online training and coaching program with office hours with me. And then we also help you set up a roadmap to help you either start a business or grow a business. And we provide a monthly session with me as well. And my commitment to those of us who are part of this program is this program is called Black Belt Startup, is based on principles in martial arts, given my background, and also business principles. And my commitment is that will help you get to your first few clients if you stick to it, you follow, you go through the material. We have a whole lot of modules that we're dropping every week, and then during the business hours, during the one-on-one, we help you answer your specific questions. And there's really no real commitment, no long-term commitment. It's month to month. So if you're not seeing the value, you can bow out. But hopefully, you'll see the value and you'll continue with us. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for being part of this live stream, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.